Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is the Chronicles of Apple, and I'm doing this video on Labor Day because I looked into, there's all this craziness with the flat earth that they're talking about. And of course, I have a lot of science backing from the time I was in elementary school, and there's always all those long encyclopedia of books, and there will be, like, in particular, one book about cosmology. I mean, the cosmic world that I used to look into, and I tried to memorize the parameters to make myself feel more intelligent. And I studied, like, I was fascinated with anatomy, and I did the same thing with the planets, and you're supposed to remember 9 planets and all that. Now things are changing with, like they said, Pluto is not a real planet. So anyhow, um, I looked into why some people are saying, flat earth. And I remember as a Catholic, um, we were told that people are actually very, you know, ignorant back in the days, to the point that they thought that the world is flat. Now, the way I understood when people thought that the world is flat is that you're looking at a piece of envelope or a piece of paper. Okay. So when people talked about it, of course, that's laughable, right? And you would hear stories in Scotland that says that you walk off into this land, and it's the end of the world, and it's also written out as it is the end of the world. So people literally believe this. So that is in the Dark Ages in Scotland. So I do believe that that is true. That the more ignorant mind is going to believe that the Earth is flat because it's not as observable, and that is because I'm assuming nobody had ridden a plane back in the days, and so on and so forth. Now, there is one dilemma that I had, and that is, the concept that it says in the book of Genesis, where there is a dome placed upon the earth. And so a dome is hard. A dome is hard, and it's a foundation of the earth. It's like it's solid. And it says that the heavens have water and it falls down. And I've actually looked into how some of these flat earth people are thinking, largely to look at it and make fun of it initially. And I'm saying initially because obviously there are literal interpretation and there is figurative interpretation now. You're supposed to not take everything literally, but how does the Lord really want us to view things? Are we supposed to take Genesis as literal or figuratively? So it says, you know, let all men be a liar and God be true. So how far do we, wanted to accept that? Because obviously, if you think about salvation, you have to believe that God is willing to save you, and by faith you are saved. And Abraham, by faith, he was saved, and this is, outside of work. It is not work. So I'm looking at this, and they were showing people take a level, which you use for carpentry, and they would go on a plane, just check to see if the plane is going to go around in a curvature. So if the plane is flying, and we've all ridden a plane, right? Does it go down to follow the curve of the earth? Now, the curve of the earth is not 100 miles away. It is, per mile there's a curve, and another mile there's another curve, another mile another curve. So there was one scientist paralyzed, and they were saying how this guy um uh kind of measured a mile, and was expecting to see the boat disappear in the water. And he said he was still able to see it after 6 miles, and there should have been about, you know, a foot drop. So the fact that it didn't drop, he says that the earth is flat. Now, unfortunately, the way they say flat, it doesn't necessarily mean flat. I mean, we think of a globe as the egg, the world is an egg, but what they're saying that is that it's a disc. So it's a disc. So there are pictures that I could show you. They're saying it's a disc, but they're not just saying, is this a disc where this is the land and you fall off, okay? It's basically more like a disc within a disc and a disc. Um, and that kind of would fit the dome that the Bible is talking about. So I actually looked at photos. If I could find it. It's really mind-boggling that when people take the plane, and you will see that the plane is actually going straight. It stayed in the center. And that is a very simple experiment. Now, does it, what they're saying is that if you were to believe that the world is a globe, so if we're supposed to look at the universe in terms of its orientation, we are, able to follow the direction based on the constellation. Well, the constellation of the earth would be obliterated, according to the people that believe in the flat earth, if you've got the moon in one end. So if you got, sorry, I gotta find this photo just to kind of make it a little bit more understandable what they're talking about. Okay, they're saying that it looks more like this. Okay, so the end at the edges, you see that there's a dome on top, but the edge of that is Antarctica, and that's kind of like the wall of the Earth. It's a disc, and underneath that, and the Bible talks about Sheol. So this is brought about by the Israelites, and Rome, as you can say, actually Rome has more paganry in it, and it's the influence of the Hebrew that, where you ended up with the Bible and the Vatican and all that. But the Vatican has a lot of misconceptions and deficiency when it comes down to explaining the Bible. They actually don't want the Bible to really be propagated that much. They want you to interpret it the way they tell the priest to interpret everything. So there's a Hebrew cosmology, and a few things that it says would be, well, let me see the Genesis one. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the water, and let it divide the waters from the water. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the water which were above the firmament. So there is water above the earth. Well, they're saying that there's nothing there. It's space. No, according to the Bible, there's water. And there are cisterns, there's opening. So this is the Hebrew cosmology. And again, this is not an issue of salvation for me, but this is the picture that I'm talking about. There are cisterns and openings in the heavens, and that's where kind of like the showering will take place. So what it's saying is that the earth is flat. So what we consider north is actually the center. So if you're talking about the map, oh, this is so heavy. So if you're talking about the map, this would be north and this would be south. So everything on the circumference would be considered south, and this is the center would be north, and then east and west kind of goes around the disc. So now if you can believe that, they're talking about well, in Europe, right, and certain parts of Europe, and you got Alaska, you won't see too much of nighttime. Well, when you say equator, it will be around here. So it's not an equator. Like if this is an egg, it's not an equator here. It's basically an equator is between the end, which is Antarctica, and then the land mass is largely here, and it's all broken up. And it will be like the flatter. You look at the map, and you're looking at a flat, okay, flat map, and you've got the different constellation, different countries and continents. So when you're talking about Alaska, Norway, Sweden, and all that, they're gonna be more around the center. They are more because this is considered north and this is south. Okay, so the compass, this is south and this is north. So if you look at that, um, if their concept of how the sun revolves around the earth is that you've got the sun here, so you've got the sun here going round and round. So if the sun, so wherever it is very direct, okay, if the sun is going this way, okay, there goes the night and day. It's like you can almost see the shadow of my hand, okay. Where the shadow is, that will be the most penetration though of the sunlight. But there will be less and less penetration going to certain spots. Okay, this is not quite in certain spots. So if Alaska and the European countries are a little bit more to the north, which is more towards the center, and not so much here, this will be colder, this will be colder, this will be the hottest. This section will be the hottest. And when the sun is going round and round, there, if you are located there and it's going this way, it's gonna be cooler because the sun is not directly on it, but it will also have more of the light, the ray of sun showing in this portion. Anyhow, that's what they're saying. And this is like a mental gymnastics for me to even, I'm not the physicist here, but yeah, if it only takes about a mile to have a nautical mile, why is it not accounted for when it comes to engineering? You don't do engineering and for miles and miles of highway and account for the curvature of the earth. They should be needing more material when it curves, because when it curves you need more material than when it's flat. So just like if you're going up the hill or down the hill, like a bump would have more surface area than just a regular flat. It requires less material. So this is the kind of stuff that is just like, it's mind boggling for me, and I'm not expecting people to believe it or not. I'm just saying they do have some credibility, and the Bible does talk about all these things. And you know are we the center of the universe? Because what they're saying is that there's disk here, there's another disk here, so there's different layers of ponds that makes up the universe, and that is very mind-boggling. If you look at it though, I'm like, why would the issue with smart people is that the scientists that we have, are they all demonically infiltrated to that degree, and they are in control of our books, and to superimpose on the biblical standard and the biblical teaching that the earth is in fact a disc? It's not flat. I think flat kind of confuses people. That would confuse me too, because then I'm thinking it's a square. No, there's four corners of the earth. So is it because you've got a disc and then there's a square thing outside of it? But the way, again, you have to conceptualize where the north and the south, the north is in fact into the center, The south is towards the Antarctica, which is the wall of the disk, and the 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 biggest portion of the countries, the continents, are sort of flat onto this disk. That's how they have it. So you can do some research on your own. Um, it doesn't matter to me whether people believe this or not, but I'm kind of like, well, it does match kind of some of the things that the Bible would talk about. And I I can die with an understanding that the earth is not a globe. I can die if I believe that the earth is a globe. It's not an entrance to heaven either. So either way you look at it, it's fine with me. However, according to the Bible, it is a dome and there's a firmament. Uh, and a dome is hard. So, what is up with this whole NASA thing with this $24 billion every single year? Is that reasonable? Um, maybe they don't get to, you know, maybe they can get to. I mean, at what point is the moon located somewhere? And the moon is sort of like this orb. The way they show it is like a flickering light. It is circular in nature, but it's more like a it's more kind of like a sparkly thing. Um, and then the sun is like this bubble, and it's not the way they heliocentric. It's not. You know, so I guess the concept there is that more people would believe in the Bible if we are to believe that the earth is flat versus when it's not. So it's just something to think about. And what is the possibility that we've got so many quote unquote scientists duped? Can they all be duped with that? Um, is it a demonic kind of incantation? Because I mean, sad to say, I mean, I honestly did not think I'm gonna think this way, but I am leaning towards the fact that it could be, it's not necessarily flat, it's a disc. It's a disc. And they're showing how when people need to go from one place to the other, like if you look at the map, so they don't go over Antarctica. The planes do not cross over Antarctica to get to the other side, even though it should be shorter if you can go through the Antarctica, Arctic, and the Antarctic area. It should be, and does that mean that the plane goes upside down? The plane goes upside down when it wants to get to the, you know, it goes up, so it's gonna be almost going this way. It's always tilted, so that means that our is the plane tilting all the time? And they're saying no, you can take a lever and it would stay at the center. And they made videos of that over and over. And then they showed this person, um you know like it's like they don't cross the Arctic poles and the Antarctica. When it comes down to plane, they go around, and that is kind of suspicious, because if it is just an egg, right, you should be going around it. That's simple as that. They will be shorter going this way than going all the way around to the other side. So that is also another thing that is actually, in reality, people don't go over the Arctic. And they, it does talk about in the Bible there are certain areas we cannot enter. And if it is an egg, then we should be able to enter all the circumference of it. Why can't we enter? And when you look at the map, if it is a flat earth, it does make sense why they travel the shortest distance in that matter. So these are just some things to think about. And I think that the Lord unveils certain things at certain time for people, and I wouldn't want to be in an argument with people over this, but I'm posting it because it's kind of interesting. It's more of a mental gymnastic to try to like, am I going to believe the Bible or am I going to believe the scientist?